You know, history is just packed with these incredible stories of forgotten heroes. But what happens when it's not just a person who's forgotten, but an entire city forgets who its liberators were? And for almost 100 years? Well, today, we're going to dig into one of the last and maybe the most unlikely cavalry charges in all of history. Seriously, this one battle totally changed the game for World War I in the Middle East. So just imagine the mayor of your city getting up and admitting that the official story of how your town was liberated was just wrong. That's exactly what happened in Haifa, one of Israel's biggest cities. For nearly a century, the history books gave credit to the wrong people, and this wasn't some tiny error. It was a total erasure of the real heroes from the story.
And this wasn't just, some debate among historians. This discovery led to a complete overhaul of Haifa's school curriculum for its youngest students. They are literally rewriting the textbooks. So what was this story that got buried for so long? What really went down in Haifa on that crazy day back in 1918?
Okay, let's jump in our time machine. We're going back to September 1918. World War I is in its final, bloody months. The Allied forces are pushing through Palestine, and their whole campaign, it all hinges on capturing the port city of Haifa to keep their supply lines open. But Haifa was basically a fortress. It was not going to go down without a fight.
And just look at what the Allies were facing. I mean, previous attacks had already failed, and you can see why. You've got Austrian artillery way up on Mount Carmel, raining down fire. You've got German machine guns covering the only road into the city. And to top it all off, the river itself is a trap, lined with quicksand. It was a perfectly designed killing field.
So, let's talk about this matchup, because it's almost comical how lopsided it was. On one side, you've got the cutting edge of 20th century warfare, right? Machine guns, heavy artillery. And on the other side, you've got the 15th Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade, Indian soldiers armed with lances and swords. It's like something out of a movie, a clash of centuries that honestly should have been an absolute massacre. So who were these guys, sent on what was basically a suicide mission? Well, they were soldiers from the princely states of India, specifically the Jodhpur and Mysore Lancers. Their orders were simple and pretty much impossible. Do what no one else could do. Go take Haifa.
The plan they came up with was nothing short of insane. A two-pronged attack. So the Mysore Lancers, they'd make this super dangerous climb up Mount Carmel to take out the big guns. That left the Jodhpur Lancers with the most unthinkable job, a direct, head-on charge straight into a wall of machine gun fire.
And as historian Charles Trench wrote, this wasn't just about strategy, it was pure rage. Seeing their friends, their brothers getting cut down by those machine guns, the Lancers became, in his words, crazed with rage. So they didn't just charge, they unleashed this furious assault, overrunning the machine guns and spearing the gunners as they galloped right into the city. This one desperate, furious charge completely flipped the script on the whole battle. And the results? Well, they were just staggering.
In one swift, violent move, Haifa was taken. Military historians now look back on this as the end of an era. Literally the last time a fortified city was captured by a full gallop cavalry charge. It was the last, glorious hurrah for a kind of warfare that was about to vanish forever.
The scale of this victory was almost hard to believe. First, let's talk prisoners. The Lancers, armed with pretty much just spears and swords, captured 1,350 enemy soldiers, not to mention dozens of officers.
And then there's the hardware. They captured 17 heavy artillery guns. Yep, the very cannons that had been trying to blast them to bits just minutes before. But this next number is the one that's just going to blow your mind. Okay, so get this. They charged straight into machine guns. They took a fortress, they captured over 1,000 prisoners, and they grabbed 17 cannons. So how many of the Lancers do you think died in that main charge? Just 8. 8 men. It's almost unbelievable. It just speaks volumes about their incredible skill and just shocking bravery.
But that victory did come with a heavy price. The charge was led by Major Dalpat Singh, who's remembered today as the hero of Haifa. He was killed right at the front of his men leading the charge. For his extraordinary bravery, he was posthumously awarded the Military Cross, one of the highest honors for gallantry you can get.
And yet, can you believe it? Despite all this heroism, the story was pretty much forgotten for almost 100 years. But that's finally changing. Today, this battle is being rediscovered and celebrated, and it's forging this really powerful link between India and Israel.
You know, the road to recognition was a long one. A memorial was actually built in Delhi just a few years after the war, but it took nearly a century for the story to really pop back up on the world stage. High-profile diplomatic visits in the last few years led to that landmark being renamed the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk, a permanent symbol of the bond that was forged in battle.
And now, this legacy is being actively preserved. It's not just the updated textbooks in Haifa. The Indian Army officially commemorates Haifa Day every single year. The modern 61st Cavalry Regiment carries on the Lancers' lineage. Israel even put out a commemorative postage stamp. This isn't just dusty old history. It's a living, breathing bond.
And it's so important to remember that the heroism at Haifa wasn't some isolated event. It was one chapter in a much larger story of sacrifice. Over 1 million Indian soldiers fought in World War I, and more than 74,000 of them never made it home. Their contribution really did shape the outcome of the war, and Haifa is just this incredibly powerful reminder of their valor.
So, in the end, the story of Haifa really makes you think. If a battle this incredible, a victory of lances against machine guns that literally rewrote a city's history, could be lost for almost 100 years, it just begs the question. How many other amazing stories are still out there, buried, just waiting for someone to uncover them?